Hello, welcome back to another edition of Hobby News Daily. I am still Danny Black, but today I'm joined by Bobby Burrell, who is a hockey expert, Canadian sports expert, vintage expert. I'm not sure there's much he doesn't do north of the border. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, how you doing, Danny? Everything's good here. Just keeping busy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am just fascinated by what you've kind of encapsulated between your ears. The depth of knowledge is remarkable. How did you get started? First of all, where do you live to clarify for everybody? And
Uh,
where did you grow up and how did you get started?
yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
So, Mecca hockey. I wish the
Yeah.
Leafs would do something a little bit better. But, anyways, yeah, I started collecting when I guess, I really remember opening my first pack in 1970, 71. And it just never stopped from there. I've always been a collector. I sort of born a collector, I would say. I got into, I kept going with the cards and other stuff. I got into comics. Unfortunately, it was Richie Rich. You know, so now I got 700 Richie Rich and no marbles. Anyways, then I got into toy games too. From the 60s and 70s. The stuff you grew up with, and
Sure.
in around 1990, 95, I would say I was already back into the hobby. I was just doing a little bit, and I got into wax packs and wrappers. And then I started to realize that nobody's really documented them well, and some dates we weren't even sure of. So at that point, I just took it forward and I started looking into things. And it was the trickle flow flood thing. I started going a little bit, and then I got into the card histories, more the in depth behind the companies, and with the wrappers and the merchandise and the food issue too, which is sort of a sidebar away from the hockey collecting. But display boxes, they go for, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. And you can just see there was a record price in 1933 Canadian chewing gum wrapper that sold for $16,000 US
Just for the wrapper.
just for the wrapper. It's actually, I think, the highest record price of a wrapper. Yeah, there's only one known. The unfortunate part is I owned it like 15 years ago and I sold it for 2,500.
Oh,
but
well, I
but
guess it's
even
better
still,
than
those wrappers go for about 2 grand in the
that
30s.
is crazy.
Yeah, well, that's Canadian. It's hockey. It's rarity, and you have a large base of hockey collectors who really want stuff like that. So
Okay, so let's educate people a little bit on the original six in hockey,
sure.
right? Were what cities? I'm putting you on the
Well, Toronto and Montreal, those two Canadian, and then you had Boston, Chicago, Detroit, and New York Rangers.
how are
So
they for collecting bases now? Do they still are they still stronger or is it player driven more today?
I really think it's team driven too. People are patriotic about the team that they. I'm a big Leaf collector, so I like a lot of things with logos. I don't necessarily follow the players as much as I once did. I'm more about the team stuff. But then again, I'm collecting vintage. But going forward, there's the odd piece here and there that nice Maple Leaf logo or something on it. I find that really attracts me. It kind of covers the whole spectrum of the team opposed to just one player. And there's more to collect at that point.
Part of the reason I asked is as we record this, the O-Pee-Chee hockey case just went for sale at Heritage Auction.
Yeah.
What was it, 3.2 million and change?
Was it 3.7 with all the juice?
3.7 when it was
Yeah.
all that. Yeah. I don't know how much you paid exactly, but so explain to people who don't understand. Everybody just hears Gretzky rookie.
Yeah.
Okay, from a practical standpoint, I mean that's a lot of money to recoup on a purchase. What made that? What is so special other than what the headline? The headline is rare case Gretzky rookies 3.7 million.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd have to say that, but when we went through the pandemic, Gretzky was the new, because we're looking at a different generation of people who grew up. I grew up in a little pre-Gretzky, in 19, what, I'm in junior high school when Gretzky's a rookie. I'm choosing potato chips over wax packs over Gretzky packs.
Sure.
Go figure, right? I had a sweet tooth too, so it was really hard to balance because we only got so much money at that time, right? So it's sort of like, do I get that chocolate bar or do I get a pack? But you get gum in the pack. But anyways, regardless, I didn't do much collecting at that time, unfortunately. The Gretzky, so that Gretzky hit that stride. Like you only get so many super. Prior to him, it's Bobby Orr. I mean, superstars. So you can say Lemieux and a lot of other players too, but Gretzky hit that stride. He had the right team at the right time. Bobby Orr, same thing, right team, great players, all of them. Since the pandemic, we had a dramatic increase in Gretzky packs. His cards just went crazy. So we're hitting that back end of it, and now it's a case found, and that's probably been the first case. Is it the only case? I will say no. We know stuff. We've heard rumors, what have you. We found 77, 76, 78 cases, 81, 82, 83. Why not 79? A high production year.
Right.
Just happenstance. And he lucked out. It was sitting there all that time. He thought it was 80, 81. So in the video, right?
Well, because that's one of the things that, similar to the NBA, if it's a 2-year, the second year is the year of the championship game typically, and the first year is the year the season started. And that's where I think there was some confusion. They saw the 80 on the 79-80.
Well, realistically, so Topps would release, because I'm a very good historian on Topps too.
Yeah, please explain this.
And baseball and football and all that other stuff. I'm just more of a hockey hobby historian centrically, but I also branch off into many other things, regardless. So with Topps, they would come out in October, November. So they would print the cards and they would come out. This is why the sets are bigger, and O-Pee-Chee waited till January. They waited till all the trades were done, and then they would increase. So they released in January. So it's 1980. But Topps would put on their products 79. So that is the difference there between O-Pee-Chee and Topps.
And
so
what was the business relationship between those two? Topps owned O-Pee-Chee? They were
well, O-Pee-Chee's been around since 1911. And, they've been their own independent company. They owned the licensing because they got really good with the licensing, as you can tell from, Topps and the Bowman history and Frank Fleer and all the other stuff, So
yep.
They've been dominant, and they tried to steal it away from Parker's too. They snuck behind his back in 1954, and they offered $15,000 per team. And George Kennedy, who owned Parker's, he was paying $5,000 per team. So he said, okay, I'll take the 2 Canadian teams. He's still 30,000 because times 6. So he took the 2 Canadian teams, and Topps got the 4 American teams at that time.
Interesting. So how come the cards are allowed to look alike? Was that just a licensing deal between them, or?
So if Topps owning the license, that means they're in charge of the creative. They do all the printing, all the sheets, and then they would send it up to O-Pee-Chee. Thus, the later release in January. Okay. But with Canada, see, the sets increase because you have like 264 in the Topps issue and 396 in O-Pee-Chee issues. Once you get past 68 and stuff like that. Prior to that, O-Pee-Chee's, they're doing all the printing and everything. The only time they didn't, I think, was 1954, the first year. I talked to the gentleman who actually drove down to the train station to pick up all the 54 sheets, boxes, and wrappers. It was just amazing conversation. I've been delving in deep since at least 95, trying to talk to old O-Pee-Chee employees, any Topps employees, anybody who I can talk to, and all the historians throughout those times. So,
well, quick shout out while you're saying that. If anybody's watching this and they say, "Hey, I know somebody who you should talk to," what's the easiest way to get in touch with you, real quick? And then we'll go over it again at the end.
Probably Facebook. Just check me out, Bobby Burrell on Facebook. Put hockey in the title, and you'll find me.
Right. Put Topps employee, you'll get a call right back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. Okay. I just acquired like 7 from the coats that they used in the factory. Topps had that round crest. I just acquired 7 from a guy who he threw the coats away, but he kept the crests. So I said, I'll take them.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of it's history. It's it's people like that stuff.
Well, and coming from the vintage baseball world, I mean, you're the Warren Bowmans, and there we go.
See, so here's something I'll tell you about baseball. See this box, 62. Yep. It's the so-called second series, but this was the O-Pee-Chee. So before O-Pee-Chee put their own name on it or anything, see how it says 36 count? Topps was always at 24. Up until 74, they were at 24 count. O-Pee-Chee was always a 36 count. They even scratched out 24 count on the ends of the boxes and then they would package 36. So we would only have 4 cards per pack, whereas in the US they would have 5 or 6. And I think it's distribution because Canada's so long and linear, going from one end of to the other end, and only few distribution outlets. That's why they did the 36 pack count. Anyway, so that is, and even on the inside lid, it says manufactured by Tops, but distributed in Canada by O-Pee-Chee company. It says right there on the inside.
Interesting.
Yeah. People don't know this stuff, but anytime you see that, and then there's a stamp on the bottom, which is exclusively O-Pee-Chee. So knowing these markers going forward, it's really great. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'll get a good
but
look.
I haven't deciphered what it means because they're all different numbers and letters, and I just don't know. And I've asked a few other people. I'm going to have to go to Mensa or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to be able to help you. Yeah. I can read it.
If you want to get back to Gretzky, we can talk about Gretzky.
No. I was curious just because, don't get me wrong. A case of 7980 Gretzky rookies, Peachy, I get the value.
Yeah.
But 3.7 or whatever the number was is a lot of value.
Well, it's not that sort of that
It's
rare. It's not like a 62 full box or something, that you would think, or a case. And I always say that, if you bought a Bobby Orr wax pack, how much would one cost? Yeah, 20, 30,000 because there's none known.
Right.
So what if you find a box full? Maybe 10,000. What if you find a case? What if you find a case? Then you're down to the PSA. See, when you open a pack, because I'm a pack expert, I've been doing packs for 35 years. When you open a pack, you're generally going to get a 7. Be it off-centering, be it whatever it is. It's generally a 7. You can get 8, 9, 10. You can get 6, 5. It depends on wax stains, glue, whatever is going to happen, right? So that is the thing going forward is you how do you estimate the value of something? And you have to give it a PSA 7 grade price. That's what you would do. So take that Bobby Orr card, give it a 7, maybe not a PSA, but just whatever, a 7. And that should be the price of your pack, as I determined. So if we take that up to Gretzky, now remember, there's 14 cards per pack, which is a lot. Yeah. And there's there's going to be 27 Gretzkys there.
27. Wow.
Approximately 27. There might be more, there might be less. Because O-Pee-Chee, there was no, it wasn't like Fleer or all the other companies where you could count, or there wasn't any, because they were reaching into a box full of cut stuff. They could have grabbed from this section or that section and put it in the hopper, and off it would go. So you could run into other sets along the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is
I have a video from 1976 where they show them loading the machine. I have it in perpetuity from an old Canadian. It was a television commercial from a radio from a television station that ran a weekly thing, and they covered O-Pee-Chee. So I have like a 3-minute video, no sound, but it shows the gum, the mixing, the boxes, the uncut sheets, the packaging that goes down. Because O-Pee-Chee used to take their boxes, every box. Tops never did. There's so many different little things about the history, which is kind of great. And that's where I write it all in the app, so everybody gets to know.
Well, and that's where I wanted to head next. Is you clearly are the authority in this area, and you've developed a kind of a unique app. Can you explain Needham?
Sure. Well, Needham is a repository of all information from 1910 to 1990. I stop at 1990 for many reasons. I wish I had enough time in my life to do 90s plus, but there's just ProSet would just kill me. I just can't, So and that's where all my specialty was. And you have to remember, I started this back in 95. So I'm kind of starting at 1990 because, all that other stuff seems rather common to me at this point. And it has all cards, all food issues. So anything issued by a company, be it Esso, a gas company, or a cereal. So we call that food issue in general. And then you have merchandise, stuff that was sold at souvenir booths or maybe in your Kroger store or something that just there was nothing related to. It was just on the shelf. So that's the merchandise side of it. And the food issue and merchandise dwarf the card issue by power to the 10. It's just crazy how many things were issued along those times. And remember, there was no back then you could acquire a license pretty easily at a reasonable price. Today you cannot. And especially
Fanatics has changed that world forever.
Well, they've changed a lot of things, and I think going forward they're going to be in a little bit of trouble, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
They came in
absolutely.
at the boom, and I think they snuck behind the backs, and then now they're at this point. What are they going to do going forward? You need competition. It keeps everything healthy. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, so speaking of which, how did you get into baseball? I mean, through not to be stereotypical, through the Blue Jays, an
I'm not so
expansion.
much into baseball. I'm into the history. So once you start doing one part of the
Well, that's
history,
what I'm saying. What teased you into learning?
okay, I'll tell you. Maple Crispet had a hockey issue, but they also had a baseball issue. And there's a Casey Stengel that's a short print, and we have a Sprague Cleghorn that's a short print. So I documented that, and then I looked at the back of the baseball card, and it says you can include 30 pitchers with the inclusion of hockey, and I'm going, why do they have this as 1923 when hockey is 24? How can you include the hockey with the baseball if it's 23 a year before? So I determined it was a year after. So I discovered that discovery back in, I don't know, 98, 99. So I said, we got to get the baseball right. So I started getting into, a lot of things that were similar, multi-sport kind of issues and stuff like that. So I was doing a little bit with baseball. I got into the tops, and then the bottom of the boxes on most of the tops from 1967 up have codes, and the end code gives you all the dates. So you can look at a box of 77 and go, oh, 77. Yeah, I can see the sevens at the end. So I got into the coding, and I got into O-Pee-Chee. So I got into all the deeper side of the information. So football, basketball, like someone could do a basketball app. Baseball
Right.
and baseball and football, there's so much. You need a group source of 1,000 people, and who's going to organize that? So going forward, I'm happy hockey is done, and I think the capability of basketball being done would be great. And so I'm trying to cover everything as much as possible. And I wrote a couple articles on the first O-Pee-Chee baseball. I actually found one of the sheets. So I've documented, and it was an error sheet too, which nobody really knows about because I write the articles and I usually publish them in the Canadian way back when, Canadian magazine. And it doesn't really get to the US side of things. So unfortunately.
You caught my attention with the food issue comment.
Mhm.
One of my things I've noticed over the years is a lot of the food issues or marketing, type of cards would be multi-sport sets
Yes.
and where your traditional, manufacturer stuck to, like you said, your set, your box, everything, was a much bigger scale. Did you find that going through, as you talked about learning the history of other sports, is you would run into these sets that just covered multiple sports or even non-sports?
Yeah, and one of the earliest ones was the 1924 Dominion Chocolate, where it's a multi-sport set. So I started getting into the baseball side of it and documenting all of those different sports. So that's really kind of what got me into the multi-sports. So I was the first one to publish in my book in 2006. No, 2015, I think. But I had documented it prior through articles. The full list. See, people would just do baseball, or they just do hockey, or they just do. So what's the rest of the list? Who's in there? So
Yeah.
I would like publishing full lists, just in case you're into more than one sport. And why not know? And I actually do that in the app. There's many issues that have I don't put the pictures and I don't price them, just the hockey. But at least the list is there for somebody to pursue.
Not only that, I think a lot of people start with a card or two and end up deciding to collect the set.
Yeah.
And to have that master checklist, as somebody who has collected some sets, you can't. I mean, you can't do it without it. So
Well, the internet's at critical mass now, and you have places like Trading Card Database.
yeah,
So they have been pretty good. The people who I shouldn't say they, because it's really the people
yeah,
that contribute to that. And where do they get the information? Here. So they'll
right.
take hey, thanks, Bobby. I'm going to put them in the. Yeah, so whatever, it's fine. Do what you got to do. But you still got to pay for the app.
Talk to me about your plans moving forward. Where do you think is there uncharted territory that you've kind of been holding off
Yep.
going down a rabbit hole? Is it with the app itself? Where do you see your attention going moving forward?
Well, see, the app was written by Andy. He's the CFL of me, so he knows everything CFL football. And
Gotcha.
he's also a code writer. So he's been working on the app for 7 years. So he asked me after my book was finished in 2015, my last book, he said, Bobby, do you want to do an app? And I said, no, I spent enough time with the book. That's enough. And then a year later, I said, okay, let's do it. So I thought I was going to be finished quick. And I obviously 6 years later, here we are. But it's written by a collector for collectors, which is really important. Part of it is that he has designed it. So adding any extra element to it, it's all there. It's just a matter of adding the pictures and information, but it's all structured perfectly because you can save lists. You can save your whole checklist, your whole want list in there, or every set. And you go, I got them. Oh, I need an upgrade on that one. Or I'm missing this one. I'm missing this variation of wrapper. It's all ready to go. And it's so detailed. I don't even know what it does beyond a certain few things. Because I don't get into that deep part of it. I actually keep everything up here, but I mean, for the most part, going forward. So Andy's been instrumental at doing that. And what do I want to do? I really would like to add in the future. There's lots more to add. There's player specific things, like if you had just all the Mantle collectibles, holy geez, so add all the Gretzkys or add all the Gordie Howes or what have you going forward. I think that's where I would really like to go. I like to go a little deeper into the regional stuff where it's very exclusive to maybe people out of Minnesota or Buffalo. They have some stuff as long as it's warranted, because you can go endlessly. Oh, here's a pen that they made. No, we don't want to get into that. We don't get something that was kind of issued that way. But also I would like to get into non-sports. With doing the hockey, I've done all the Parkhurst from 51 to 63. I would like to get into the non-sports of Parkhurst and add that as a bonus, just because nobody else has done it yet. And my information, like Canadian non-sports, there's over 400 unique pre-war sets in Canada.
Wow.
Like everyone how many hockey sets is there? I don't know, dozen, two, maybe.
Right.
So, and storied history going back to the 1880s, so there's so much great information. And I'm sort of a historian in that part too.
You're clearly a historian in general. You just chose cards. Yeah, I mean, which is awesome. It's part of, you write for Hobby News Daily, if I didn't make that clear. And what part of the reason I love the articles is the history. It's bringing something that I appreciate. Where can people find you now? All over the place.
All over the place. Like I said, you could find me on Facebook. I have a collectors group actually there, which is it's called the Vintage Hockey Collector. And that group actually has no cards. You can only post memorabilia or food issue. That's it. I have 2,300 members. Because what happened with the cards on Facebook is that everyone, oh, look at my Gretzky, look at my Gretzky 9, it just becomes a posting site. This one is an information-based site. So people add stuff, their pickups. Hey, what is this? Hey, we all share and we all kind of come together. So 2,300 members, that's pretty darn good considering
it's a community.
It's a community, and it's a very small community. I do a lot of the posts, and I do a lot of but I try to leave stuff for other guys to answer too. And I'd be surprised that some of the information other people have too. So it's a great sharing group, and that's where I am mostly. Instagram, you can catch me there, and also, where else am I? I tried X, but I'm not really happy with X. But anyways,
Yeah,
you can find me anywhere. Just put Bobby Burrell Hockey. You can YouTube even. I have a video on who I am and what I do. So.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you joining me today. We could have easily done an hour or two. I feel like we just put our toe in the water. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to have you back in the summer.
I look forward to that.
We'll catch some hockey off season.
Yeah, true enough. See who wins the cup. Maybe the Leafs. No.
Yeah, well, I'm stuck here with the Washington Capitals. So.
Oh, the poor Washington Capitals, the least collected. Oh, sorry.
You know what?
Ovechkin is really.
Yeah, I was going to say we got Ovi, but I still have my Oli the goalie sweater somewhere. So, that's the era I grew
You got
up
Paul
with.
Mateer from us, so
Yeah. All right, Bobby Burrell, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Danny. I appreciate it.
To everybody else, thanks for watching another edition of Hobby News Daily, and remember to check out hobbynewsdaily.com. Take care.